Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Woodstock, Georgia. This is Fearless Formula with Sharon Klein. Welcome to Fearless Formula on Business RadioX, where we talk about the ups and downs of the business world and offer words of wisdom for business success. I am your host, Sharon Klein, and I haven't done a show in a bit because I've had a cold and it's just been unbelievable. But hooray, I'm back and happy to be in the studio. Today, I have the CEO, director, and filmmaker of Off the Rails Production, which is a film and video production company based out of Georgia in Canton, created in 2020, right before the pandemic, or right at the pandemic. Please welcome Ken Merritt. Hi.
Hi, Sharon. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. I know we met briefly in the fall, so I'm really excited to have you on the show to talk about how much, first of all, Georgia gets involved in your productions, but also your story about how you became a filmmaker. And we were just discussing briefly before the show started kind of some deep isms, like little stories that we know. And I'm made me so excited to have you because I know that we're going to talk about some things that are very important to the human condition, but also to give people out there some inspiration on how they can follow their own dreams too.
Very good. Well, I kind of came to this point with a crooked road. I mean, it had a lot of dips and ups and downs and curves and one-way streets, detours. I know one thing, it didn't come by means of shortcuts. Sometimes when you're looking for the shortcut, it kind of backfires on you. And I have come to this later in life as well. And I often wonder what would have become of me if I would have started a little earlier, in life. And it seems like I could have gotten so much more done with youth and energy and time on my side. But, then I'm reminded that people with more wisdom than I, that things happen where they are at the time in life that they need to happen. And because of the experiences in my life, I can bring a little bit different element to filmmaking that maybe I didn't have when I was young.
It's a great way to look at it. Cocky. Determined.
Yeah, right. Full of myself. But I've always had this connection to cinema movies. I've always just enjoyed watching them. And then a lot of times we would go to a movie and then go to somewhere like IHOP or Waffle House and break it down. And so I wanted to be in it early in life. In fact, in college, I was in a lot of plays in college and acting wise. And I thought at that time I wanted to act. I didn't think about writing for film. I didn't think about directing, shooting anything. But I went to college at Carson Newman College on a wrestling scholarship. And so I didn't get to really pick out what college I wanted based on their film department or their acting. So the closest thing that college had to being in film, being on camera, is a communication arts degree with an emphasis in journalism, broadcasting, speech, and drama. Hey, it sounds good. Not too many accounting classes there, so I think I'll sign up for that one. And I've been one of these that's been a real hard decision for me to decide, what do I want to do for the rest of my life? I mean, you're kidding me, right? You want me to take one occupation and do that one job?
Mm-hmm. Build your whole life, the future.
Till I die? There's no way I can decide that, in 4 years of college. And so I sort of envied some people that kind of knew what they wanted to do ever since they were a kid. And, I went through the perfunctory, fireman, astronaut.
Well, you were a wrestler, right?
I was a wrestler. Yeah. And I played football in high school, but I was not big enough to be an offensive lineman and not fast enough to be like a linebacker. And so I just thought, I had a few offers to small schools, but I knew I couldn't make money at football. So I took the wrestling route because it's shorter season. Football in the South is pretty much year round. So I didn't want to put that much into something that I wouldn't be able to make money at, So I thought, well, if it's going to pay for my school, I'll do the wrestling. And so I was, I went that route, and then I was going to get my master's degree in broadcast journalism. And I kind of pictured myself at this point being that person that goes overseas and getting that daring scoop, and the danger, the peril, the adventure. And, but I met this girl in college, and she was coming in while I was going out, and, she had other things in mind for me. And, I soon got married, long story short, started having children and got involved with life. So that dream of doing something big, large, fantastic got put on the shelf for what you had to do. That is make enough money to have insurance and a mortgage and enough for diapers and wipes, because we had 3 children all in a row.
Wow.
1 year apart. And so it was more about what I had to do instead of what I wanted to do.
Survival. At
that point. It was survival. And it wasn't a marriage. You see it sometimes where both of them kind of have the same deal. They don't mind this starving artist lifestyle. Hey, I'll work, pay the bills while you do your thing, and then we can swap out. It wasn't that. And so, and then when you have a lot of kids, like my wife did at the point, it was, you've got a lot to do. You're tired all the time, and you're just, trying to make it to the next payday and the next nap, So that got put on. The industry kind of changed. When I was in college, it was more about, it changed to digital format. Okay. It went from analog to digital. And I knew that I was going to have to rebrand and go back to school and learn the different technology. And life didn't afford me that. And so I think the big wake-up call was later on in life. I had now I'm on my second marriage. The first one just didn't work out as planned. Taught me a lot of life lessons. So my son, who now I've moved on, I've married another woman. She had a son as well, but we've not had children together. But he wanted to be an actor, and he wanted to move to California. And at that time, I was living in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I said, not one to squelch anyone's dream. I didn't hound him with well, where are you going to work? Where are you going to live? How are you going to do this? Kind
Reality.
of thing. Yeah. How's this going to pay the bills? And I just encouraged him. And he wanted to go to California. And I said, well, how about we go together? We'll just have a father-son bonding trip, on the way. And we'll ride out together and I'll fly back. And he really honestly did not know where he was going to live. He didn't know.
Just show up to the city
where he was gonna
just look when you get there.
Right. I mean, we'll figure it out. Okay. And so he lived in his car for about a year and a half. And I guess that kind of told me, seeing how he sacrificed for his dream, it showed me, because the kids were all gone now. The child support payments were made, and I had a little bit more clearance now in my life to do something maybe I wanted to do. And at that time, I owned my own commercial cleaning business, and I thought, what is it if I had to choose what one job I'd like to do above anything else, despite everything else, despite the cost or the schooling or anything else, all that aside, what's the one dream job that I'd like to do? And that was make a movie. I don't know, some way, somehow, write it, direct it, I don't know, act in it somehow, and didn't really even know where to start. And so then I'd learned about all the filmmaking going on in Atlanta. It's been kind of a hotbed. It's just kind of been building. And I'm from Georgia originally, from Warner Robins, and I've got family still here. So I thought, I'm going to just move. I'm going to pack everything. We're going to sell the house. We're going to create this new life in the Atlanta area. But, it was such a big, crazy dream that I didn't really tell a lot of people about it, about that end of it. They knew I was going to leave it, and they're like, I could just hear them now. A guy that's in his 50s that's going to leave his business in Knoxville and go and chase this wild dream of making a movie. Okay, it sounds and I really didn't want to get laughed at too much, and I if there's anybody that can maybe encourage me, but I didn't really find anybody that I thought I trusted with that. So it was more like, I'm going down to Atlanta to be closer to the family. Mm-hmm. Parents are aging, kind of thing. They need me closer.
It's reasonable.
Mm-hmm. Just a different outlook, a change of pace. And if anybody has ever gone through a hard divorce with children involved, it is rough, and it's hard on the children. It's hard on the parents, and I had gone through this craziness and through false accusations to try to get control of the children and things like this, and it was very and I felt like I needed a new scenery, just change of pace and get rid of a lot of, just flesh it out and start new. And that's what this journey's been about. And I didn't know exactly where to start, so I looked around and researched. I didn't care about having a degree. I just wanted to kind of learn something about the film industry so I could get my foot in the door. And so I came across Georgia Film Academy, which is not about a degree; it's about a certification. And it consists of like two fields that you get certified in, and then an internship, and then you get your certification. So it starts with Intro to Film Production. That was in Norcross, and I was making that trip on a weekly basis. Ended up getting through that, but it was more technical. It wasn't very creative. It was really a staffing agency for these film companies that are coming. Okay. And
interesting.
It was lower level work, and I don't, when I say lower level, I'm not demeaning those jobs, but it was more, they call it even below the line or above the line. Below the line is more like the grips, the gaffers, those that are doing a lot of the heavy physical work. And then above the line jobs are more like directors, writers, producers. Yeah, exactly. That kind of thing. And so
imagine it's important to know how to work this equipment. Imagine that's not like it's a useful skill and information to have, but it wasn't what your whole dream was. Right.
It really wasn't. And so I wanted to get something creative, like writing or running a camera or directing, producing, that kind of thing. And so I heard about this, and it was part of a school in Atlanta called Atlanta. I'm sorry, it wasn't. It was actually an extension of. So it wasn't really part of it, but it was it was in Jonesboro, and it was a screenwriting course. And there's what's the college in Morrow? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's
I don't. I'm
okay.
So sorry.
No, it's fine. And I didn't get a degree from there, but it was an extension of that. And then so you learn the formatting of screenwriting, and then what's neat is if you at the end of it, you'll pitch your idea to a panel with some professionals there to learn the art of the pitch as well. And then if they choose yours, then you can choose to direct it, and then you'll make it. And then the production class across the hall will actually make it.
Amazing.
So that was really, really cool there.
How did it feel to be pitching a story that kind of came out of your own head? You know,
Well, I thought, you know what? I may not ever get another chance to make a movie because this is done on their dollar and with their crew and their equipment. And I wanted to make something good because it might be a foot in the door for later. Maybe it's some proof of concept that I can then pitch to be a full-length feature movie. And it turned out to be that case. They selected mine. It was called Jesse's Gift. And movies that were real popular that year had music in them, like Star is Born, Bohemian Rhapsody, Rocket Man. All of them were good movies, and they were also box office successes too. But I also have a brother that happens to be a musician, and he's a songwriter. And he encountered a lot of things in Jesse's Gift that he'd been trying to make it in the industry for a long time and get bumped back and forth and beat up. And
the same themes were in that story. And you had this story in your head for how long?
Well, since we had to have an idea to write a story, then I started thinking, what could I do? How can I write to my resources? And I knew that my brother was this musician. He wasn't going to charge me for rights to music, and it also contained a story in it. This character arc of someone who gets beat up by life, loses all hope, and then through the gift of a dying father, finds a way to regain his destiny. And a lot of the events in the film are true. Now, when I did the short film, that's what
like a 30-minute long film.
Right. Mm-hmm. It was different then. Sort of the same premise, but it wasn't as involved, as rich, as deep as the story that it is. So once we got the short made.
And it was with this school that did this.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like to actually see people working to create a story?
It was really cool. I mean, to think that you've written something and then the actors are going to act it out, the words that you wrote, and then it begins to take a life of its own. And, I tell people that a painter has a paintbrush, a musician has an instrument, a filmmaker has an army. And there's this group of people that when you're all working together on something that's bigger than you, and everything else kind of falls away, the socioeconomics, the gender, sex, whatever, because you're working towards a goal. And if you want to work beside me and help us finish this goal, then that's all that matters. So it's a real bonding experience. And it was really cool seeing this script come to life. So once the short was made, then I met this producer, Troy Bakewell. He also has a gear rental company called Indie Gear Solutions, and I met him on the set of a movie that I was working as a boom operator on, because you just take whatever you can get in the film industry just to get experience. And boom op was a pretty cool job because when you're on the actor, you're close up front with the cameraman, you're close to the director, so you're hearing all the notes. You're not working somewhere in the background, so you're seeing how the process is done. And the one who was renting the gear to them was a guy named Troy Bakewell, and I gave him a card. And, he said, okay, give me a call. And, here you go again. You're going to call and you get their voicemail and they'll never call you back. And,
happens to me
send
all the
them
time.
a bunch of emails and they never respond. And I'm like, yeah, here we go. But, I called him once things calmed down and that was over. I called him and he actually answered the phone. Okay. Now, granted, he's not this big time producer. He does that kind of on the side. Because he does a movie every now and then to show people what kind of movie you can make with his gear. And in order to do that, they like to take a short film, like a student film or something, and help them make it into a feature. And then they can say, look, this movie was done on an amateur level with my equipment, but looks like anything else out there on Netflix, Hulu, whatever. And so when I told him our options, and he was like, So I'd won an award with a horror movie, and it was called The Green Monster.
Oh, you have The Great Monster, but there's also one I saw that was called Consent.
Yes,
yeah, that's like a horror movie.
That wasn't there at the time.
Okay,
but that's been done, and we've done a lot of shorts now.
That's amazing.
And those are kind of practice for us. So when we do a full length feature, we use a lot of the same people that have been making our short films. And we've got some experience at it.
And you build relationships with them then, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You really do. And if you look at some of the big-time filmmakers like Tarantino or Clint Eastwood, a lot of them use the same crew members and everything, just because.
There's a level of trust.
Right. That's a big part of it, the trust
it's
level.
very sacred what you're doing. You're creating media that you're hoping will affect people's lives.
Absolutely.
And have it land the way you want. So
right.
to have a level of trust with people, it's why would you want to invest, all that time with someone that you don't know? I get that. Yeah. And if you're good to work with and easy to work with, and
I tell people that if you're in there with a valley with me, and if I do get to the mountaintop, you're coming with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not going to forget how I got here. And so it was I told Troy about the different projects, and he opted for the Jesse's Gift. And I didn't think he would. I thought he considered it's a boring drama. And when you do your research, you find out that a lot of first-time filmmakers, drama is not your best option. It's more, do horror, maybe dumb comedy, something where you're not graded on a higher level and that needs to be really good in order to be a good movie, because a drama, if you don't do it right, if you don't have big stars in your project, it may not be your best plan of action for your first film. And but he liked the idea of the movie with music, not a musical movie with music, but also the fact that my brother probably had some type of following out there already as a band member, and it might help in promotions and because he was thinking of the end result.
Yeah, smart.
So you get different ways to market it, because you can do it as a soundtrack, you can do it as music.
You've got a Spotify playlist of all the music. Yeah.
Right. So there you go. And that kind of led to this point here. We started making it. Now, he didn't just write a blank check for it. He was like, we're going to give you the means to do it. I'm going to be your DP, which is director of photographer. You're going to be your grip, your key grip, your gaffer. I'll have the equipment to make, most movies. I mean, you're not talking about making a Mission Impossible here or James Bond. I mean, you're talking about, but we'll have sliders, we'll have jibs, we'll have enough equipment, Steadicam, that you compete out there with good enough shots.
So then you had to flesh out the story more. Is that right? Or did
you really
already
do?
Know?
No, you really have to, because here it was 30 minutes, and he wanted to make it within the next year, the end of the year. And I told him that I had, a rough cut of the full feature. I did not.
Fake it till you make it.
I didn't want him to move on to someone else.
Aww.
And I'm like, but I had it in my mind, but I didn't have it on paper. So sometimes it can take months to write a feature length film in its final version. Sometimes years. But, I'm not doing, the manifesto of the origin of life here, but still, you want to make sure that it's a good story. It moves people. It's producible on the budget that we have, and all that good stuff. So every now and then he'd say, I could use that script. Can you send me that script? I'm working on it. And I just tried to buy as much time. I wanted to make Jesse's Gift not only longer, of course, but better, richer, more interesting, more compelling. And so then I had this idea, why don't we have Jesse start at the very bottom? He becomes so full of hope, lack of hope and dismay and frustration that he just goes and lives off grid. He just goes homeless, And then, we had at the very beginning of the movie, he gets beat up, gets spit on. He's laying on a railroad track in the cold. And that's where we start the movie. I mean, we start with his life prior to this. And then we flash forward to him 5 years later, and he's been homeless. His father, family members really don't even know if he's alive or not. And then let's take Jesse and see if we can take him all the way to the top from being on the bottom. And let's put this in a journey that fill it in with sickness in a family, built-in rage from his daughter that holds him responsible for the junk in her life, the death of her mother, and this kind of thing, things that so many people can relate to. I mean, a lot of us aren't blessed with musical talent, but a lot of us know someone that's had cancer, it's been really sick, or we have family members that hate us, and we have to work through redemption. And those were kind of things that are universal. It's not a faith-based film. I am a faith-based person, but I've gone back and forth with, do I need to do faith-based film? Because sometimes they're easier to distribute. You've got a niche audience. Sometimes they don't have to be as production quality-wise
polished.
You know what I mean?
I do.
Because people that are watching it for faith-based, sometimes they're okay with that element as long as you check these certain boxes. But I keep going back to, do I want to use this as a tool to reach people that maybe not are in the faith or in the church, or just be Christian entertainment? There's nothing wrong with either. But I've watched a lot of faith-based films growing up. My dad was a pastor of a small church, and honestly, I didn't care for most of what I watched. It didn't grab me, didn't move me. Some of it felt sterilized. It felt inside of a bubble.
It can be kind of trite. There's it can be wrapped up in a little bow, and as long as, like you said, it's covered
right,
like a certain lens, then you should accept it and feel something.
Right.
But I understand that people are so much more complex. Life
right.
is a lot more complex.
It can be predictable. You know where this is going to end, and everything's going to be wrapped up and tidy. But my life is not that way. It was very messy, and that's why I say, by coming at it later in life after the storms and the battles, then maybe that helped me become a better writer, because I've had those experiences in life. I wasn't just right out of college with few life experiences to relate to write about. And so pain was a large driving force for Jesse's gift. And I wanted to include that pain, and I wanted to include real life. He smoked, he drank, he cussed every now and then. He had a daughter that worked in a nightclub as a dancer. And so the pain, when he comes back to the town that he was from, which is in reality Canton, in the movie it's Timber City, he's confronted with those things. They haunt him. They remind him, in Jesse's mind, he was a failure.
We were talking before the show started about how important hope is. And just the notion of having to face the things that you've done that you're not proud of, that you're ashamed of, and then having to see it play out in your daughter's life. That's enough to get into your mind that there really isn't a way out.
Right.
And that's a feeling I think most people can identify with.
I think so. And they either have hope or in lack of hope, in need of hope. And I think with Jesse, when they see him work through these demons, these obstacles, and finds a way to fulfill his destiny, then it does our hope that we encourage the viewers to move on with whatever it is their dream.
Because it's not. We were also talking before, we had a lot of chit-chat right before the show, but we were also talking about how things don't have to be perfect. Whatever your definition or someone else's definition of perfection is, it doesn't have to be. His life doesn't have to have a perfect bow at the end or even look like what he wanted.
Right.
But it's an authentic life to him.
It really is. And that's so true. So, we ended up with this film. We did even send it to some representatives from Pure Flix, which is a faith-based distribution. And there were some things that we could have taken out of it. But then when they said, there's a lot of drinking and smoking and this could, negatively influence, we're like, well, I don't think we can do that because that's Jesse was wrapped up in his vices and his addictions and his problems. And maybe not everybody drinks or smokes, but those were outward things that we could show that he's a flawed human being and he's not perfect. And one of the taglines is you'll like him, you'll hate him, but in the end you'll grow to love him. And I think it's because we can grow to love flawed characters, and it's not the fact that they're perfect that we like them, but because we can relate to them.
What was it like working with your brother like that?
Well,
and family in general. Your son's involved in your
we had a lot of we joke that we're the Von Trapp family filmmakers. and sometimes that's a bad thing. If you see too many last names on one project, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. This is the family project. It can't be any good.
But Michael Grady Merritt is your brother,
right?
Who had his own musical career in his own right,
right?
So he had his own following, which I love. But then you had to be able to he had to be an actor too, right? To be able to work together.
And we wondered about that. Do we need to find someone else to act and use his music? He's not an actor. He's a songwriter. He's a singer. But then, and I was talking to Troy Bakewell of Vinegar Solutions about this dilemma. And Michael, first of all, he wanted to act in the movie. And it's his music, too, that we were going to be using. So if we're going to use his music and some of his story, then maybe because he created this, that we would see elements of that coming out because he was the creator. It's like if you've ever read a book that you wrote, we see that a lot on Audible. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they don't have the best voice, but sometimes it can come across as more genuine and authentic because whoever's reading it is the one that lived that, the one that wrote that. And so we sort of make trade-offs. And so he was definitely the actor in the short. Do we want to have him be the actor in the full-length feature? And we went with yes. We think that on the stage he's going to be fine. He's got plenty of experience on the stage.
He can perform
as a performer. But we asked some hard things of him. All of these actors that were had a lot of experience, but they hadn't made it yet as an established star. But they all stepped up to the plate. I think that by watching it, if there's ever any bad part of this, it's not the acting. The actors really came through, and we asked some heavy things of him. I mean, like the father to die. Dying is hard when you're giving away this gift at the end, and you want to make it look believable, heartfelt. Who knows how we are when we die? It's definitely going to be an acting job because we've never died before, and to not go over the top, but to be heavy enough. We asked Michael to break down, to have this dark night of the soul moment, to when you've lost all hope, and to take the guitar and try to find the healing from it, but it doesn't come this time around, and then you use the instrument that has given you hope as destruction, and to crash it on the floor, and then another breakdown when the daughter comes back to you for the first time in years, and you break down because she's still mad at you, and then as a result, to try to fix things, you end up late for your appointment with your A&R rep, and you miss what could be a turning point in your life. You miss that deal, and then so it's that character arc that I like in movies, that you just you get on the road and then all is well, but you start to get there and you fall and you stumble again, and then you find a way to get back up, and this time for good. And that's what we had in life, is in the movie, is the ups and downs, because sometimes when we decide to do the right thing, that things don't line up necessarily, and but if we stick it out and we hang in there and we keep getting up every time life throws us down, then we can find a way to make it.
What was it like to have those emotional scenes with your brother?
Well, it was different, and I don't know if I fully answered your other question, but working with family is tough, and we are very competitive. Sibling rivalry is a real thing with my brother and I, and he's so talented. Everything's come to him easily, and plays these instruments and writes these songs, and I may play the radio on a good clear day. I mean, I can't relate to that. And even athletically, he's a more natural athlete. So, but we're still competitive, whether it's playing checkers or playing tennis or one-on-one basketball.
That competition came out when you were filming?
It did, and there was one scene where tensions were rising and tempers flaring. And I had to, let's take a break. It is very hard to make a movie. It's taxing, tolling, many takes, long hours, excruciating details. And I told Samuel was another crew member on the set, and Samuel was very good with Michael, and loved Jesse's gift, loved everything about it, loved Michael's music. I said, Sam, I'm going to let you direct this next scene because there's too much going on between my brother and I right now. And so we do compete with one another on that level, and and even about little things, who gets credit for this or who's that, and this was my idea or this kind of thing. All that stuff comes up when you start working elbow to elbow with people, especially your family. And but to direct him in those scenes was tough. We did send Michael to some acting classes between the short film and the full-length feature because we knew we were going to be asking a lot of him. His acting increased, the quality of his acting so much as time went on. I could tell that performer in him was coming out on camera as well, and to the point where I said, Michael, it seems like you're really digging this movie stuff. I said, if you had to choose between being a musician or an actor, where would you go? And he thought about it for a minute, and he actually said, acting. That was more gratifying to him. He enjoyed that more.
There's something about being in a scene where you feel like you're really experiencing those emotions, whatever it is, so deeply and authentically to yourself that when that can translate to somebody else feeling those, then you have created a connection that highlights the fact that we are more alike than we are different. And then something magical, I think, about knowing that there's an emotion that I feel that you may be a stranger, but you feel that makes us alike in some ways. We're not we're not enemies. You're not a stranger so much as you are a human and I'm a human.
Sure.
Just kind of reducing
we
people
share our
to
dreams, and we share together a passion like that.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference.
So did you go through the process of hiring actors to be in the movie, or were they from the previous one that you had done the short?
Well, we had some actors that were in the previous short. Those were the primary characters. I knew that once we only had 3, 4, and the short, and we had 3. It was sort of this 3-way love story between the grandfather, the father, and the daughter, and those 3 primary roles we kept the same actors, and we wondered if we were going to be able, but they were, like I said, they were experienced actors, and Atlanta area's got a lot of them. And with actors, sometimes you don't, if your budget's tight, you don't have to pay them as much sometimes as crew members, because an exciting role is almost like crack cocaine to a street junkie. I mean, they live for that kind of thing, and
it's an investment in them, in their future too, for other people to be able to see it and have a reel and all of that.
Sure, they get that you pay your dues.
That's what you're there for,
right?
To experience those things. Yeah.
So those 3 roles were the same actors, and then we added the Big John character, and then we added the son, who was played by my son, the youngest son, which was Jesse's younger brother.
It must be amazing too to see that. These generations together.
It was totally amazing, and I know we didn't go into detail about the divorce and the breakaway I had from the children for a long season, but to be able, if for someone who knows that, and if anybody does ever want to reach out to me, maybe somebody's going through a divorce or child parenting issues, and need some hope, they can find it, because now I'm in a movie, I'm writing a movie, acting in a movie. I acted in this too a little bit, with my son, and that was the coolest thing about it, to show that redemption and that working together on a passion project with him. My nephew was in it as crew member. My sister helped out on the crew. She also played the role of the hospice nurse. So yeah, it was rather exciting, rather challenging at times, because you know them well, and you also don't want to show favoritism, right? People know that you're related, and they could sometimes be looking for, any favoritism. So as long as you treat them the same way as the ones you're not related to, then it can work. But if they see that my brother is there because he does write great songs and he is a great performer and musician, not just because he's my brother, then they get it.
Right. It's not as if you are trying to fit a mold, and
right.
It just your brother's always wanted to do this kind of thing, but no, he legitimately was this character.
Right. Exactly. It sure was. And they would see us argue and fuss and fight too, and hold each other to the same quality standards, and I think that helped.
Made it better. Well, and you can use those emotions, I'm sure.
You can.
The different scenes.
Yes, you absolutely can. Channel it in the right way and use it for the character.
So you finish the movie.
Yeah.
And then the next part is obviously the editing and all of that. How was that?
Well, the post-production process is evil in its own right as well, but it's not as anxiety-ridden because you have it all in. Everything's in the can, so to speak, and now you're dealing with less people, less stress, less deadlines, and I can go up and that was another story in itself. The editor for Jesse's Gift, and we use several in post production. You have sound design, you have color grading, you have assistant editing, but the main editor was actually the ex-husband of the wife I'm married to now.
What?
Get your head wrapped around that.
Interesting.
And I didn't know him before, when they were married. I didn't know him. So when she was, fully divorced when we met, but we got along okay. He was senior editor for the Discovery Network in Knoxville. And then when he retired, he came to my mind because I knew that he had experience, and asked him if he wanted to edit the short. And he took the script and he did it for me as a favor because he always wanted to do something like narrative based. instead of just, corporate
TV show, yeah.
training videos or corporate reels. And so he wanted to do a movie, and so Jesse's Gift, so it was just a lead-in that he would do the feature as well. And I had to find a way to pay him for the feature. He wasn't going to do that one pro bono, but he did it definitely below his rate, and it really worked out good for us. I would go up there because he lived in Knoxville too, and spend a week at a time and sleep on his couch, and we'd edit together in his suite for long hours. And it's just really weird. We're great friends. We love each other. There's a lot of respect for one another.
You really get to know someone when you're in that kind of environment, right?
You really do.
And he can see kind of what your soul is made of by having to work with.
Right.
This.
There's no faking it when you're working that close with one another and over that long a period of time.
So what was it like to see it completed?
Well,
I think I would cry. I really do.
I've cried. There's been tears. There's been frustrations. There's been anger. There's been joy. You know what? And when you watch something over and over, it's like when you see bands that play the same songs they played for so many years over and over, you wonder how they can keep from going through the motions, right? Is there any feeling still left in that song? When Eric Clapton wrote Tears in Heaven and he sings that song, is he still moved by what promoted him to write that song, Cindy and I, my wife now, we watched this movie a couple of weeks ago. Again, we just sat down, not pieces of it, not watching it degrade it, not just let's get the popcorn out, let's put it on, let's not do anything else, and watch it again. And there's some scenes that are building scenes. I call them eat your vegetable scenes. They're needed, but they're not some of my favorite. But then there's some of my favorite scenes, and they still move me, and I still cried. But also just that we're watching something. There are truths in this film. It's like his daughter in real life really attempted suicide. Wow. The ups and downs of the music industry really happened in his life. Our father really did get cancer, but we lost him. The fact that our father, when my brother came home from basketball practice in high school and he didn't make the team when he'd worked all year long, dribbled and shot till his fingertips bled, and then he didn't make the team, then he was real down and out. And my dad did something strange as a recourse. He left the house and he came back. He went to a pawn shop and he bought a guitar with 5 strings on it, and he brought it back to my brother. And that event, he was like sophomore in high school. It literally changed the trajectory of his life. And instead of pouring himself into something he wasn't designed to do, he became a songwriter. He took naturally to the guitar, and then he started becoming the life of a musician.
I wonder what it was that made your father decide to go get a guitar as opposed to, I don't know, I could imagine many responses to working so hard and not getting to be on the team, but like you could imagine a father berating their son, or like, what did you do wrong? Or, you'll figure something else out, but instead actually went silently out. And it
was genius on a certain level, because a talk is, you're not going to change the fact you didn't make it. It's
going to hear it.
It's going to hurt. But by giving him a diversion, something to do differently, really did work. My dad was funny that way. In some ways, we considered our dad not very smart, and then on other levels, we felt like he was genius, and he had an innate ability to do things that were off the cuff and different, but ended up being like, I never learned to be a handyman from my dad. He was not that way at all, and my dad and power tools did not mix. But when it came to touching people's lives, that we saw from him and learned from him, and and try to carry it out in our own lives. I'm not a preacher. That road is, I saw the judgment level on that lifestyle, and didn't want to go there. I knew I was a flawed human being. I knew that I wanted to have a drink every now and then. I wanted to watch an R-rated movie. I just wanted to do things that people get judged for, and but I still believe, but I am not, that a preacher where I get in front of people and tell people, instruct them how to live their lives, because I'm definitely a flawed human being, and I didn't want that kind of pressure ever. But in a way, I'm doing it in another means through film.
What has this meant for you? Kind of doing a look back at where you've come from, and then actually put the director hat on and live your dream. What has that meant for you now?
Mm-hmm. Well, it does mean a lot to me, and it's something I don't take lightly. When you make a movie, when you write a song, it's forever. It really is. I mean, we take a picture, that's forever, and especially in this day of
internet is forever.
Internet consumption and everything else. People can bring it up and see it years from now, and it never goes away. And so I always feel like whatever I do in terms of a movie needs to have some purpose. It needs to have some way to communicate to somebody out there who needs it. And so I don't take that responsibility lightly. I do think God has played a big role of me getting here to this point in life. Not sure where this road's going to eventually take me, because
You're still on it.
I'm still on it, still on the journey, but I'm excited about the journey and the process. And I do believe if I died, if I ran out on Main Street and got T-boned and I left this earth, I made a movie. I have something left to show for it, and I think that we all need to ask ourselves that question before we leave. Are we ready? Have we left our mark on this world? Have we accomplished what we feel like needed to be accomplished?
I ask myself that a lot. If something happened today, how would I feel about, standing in front of God or, whoever, and can I account for the time that I had, and can I honestly say I did the best I could with what I had, and I'm proud of how I handled myself. And there are a lot of things that I'm not proud of, but I feel like my biggest accomplishment is over and over not allowing the fear of the unknown to stop me from really pursuing something that feels authentic to me and feels right to me. That's exemplified in many different ways throughout the different experiences I've had in life. But for a long, long, long time, I didn't have that to say. So nothing's easy. I mean, and nothing's turned out the way I thought it was going to, 100%.
Right.
But I think that's what inspires me for the show. This show is Fearless Formulas, how I let fear make a lot of decisions for me for many years, and I was never proud of that. Mm-hmm. But you're doing the same thing, mm-hmm. in that you took a big chance in moving physically to a new place, and also not knowing where this was going to land, whether it would be received the way you wanted it to be. There's so much faith.
Right. And
I have this plaque that I have in my kitchen. I always keep it with me because it was very inspiring when I was at a crossroad in my life. And it's a Martin Luther King Jr. saying. He says, faith is taking the first step without seeing the whole staircase.
Like it.
And it's true. That's what you're doing as well.
It's interesting you mentioned Martin Luther King Jr. because I was thinking of him when you started talking about living on faith, because I've also read when he read in the scripture that says the just shall live by faith, that that to him was that moment of that watershed moment, and that turned his life around. I have a saying that meant a lot to me as well. It's about courage, and with a name like Fearless. Fearless
Formula.
Fearless Formula. I mean, it's definitely about overcoming fear, but courage is not the absence of fear, but moving on in the face of it. Don't be afraid of fear. If you fear something, it's normal, it's human, but don't let it control you. Moving on in the face of it. It's okay to fear.
Because we're always going to feel that. It's always going to be there.
Right. You're not a weak person because you fear, but if you let it control you, therein lies the problem.
Well, and then, like you were saying, time goes on, and there's this feeling of, now I feel like I'm living a life that's authentic to me.
Right.
And I want to catch up. Like you
Right.
were saying, like, how much time do I have
Right.
left? All I can do is, and
Absolutely.
again, the age that I am and the time that I have is different than when I had small children at home.
Right.
So I can, and I experience that I can use in ways that younger people can't.
Right.
And that's like a blessing of getting older, I suppose. But there is this sense of the growth that I feel like I've gone through. Now I use it as fuel for myself when I'm having days where I feel like I'm feeling the normal fear. Well, I look back at what I've gone through, and then I can remember what it felt like to just push through. And I don't always, there are days where I don't feel it.
Right.
But conversations like this definitely help to remind me of what it's like when you're not living congruently and authentically to yourself. Right. But do you feel like you are? Do you feel like you are finally kind of living the life that you always dreamed of?
Well, I mean, honestly, I haven't got to that point where I wake up and jump out of bed and excited about where I'm at in life. We still get ups and downs, but I just have learned, and like you said, when you do push through and overcome, you gain a little bit more confidence in that. And the thing about my experience and age in life now is I know that they pass. Sometimes you just keep going. You get up. You don't feel like getting up. You had a hard day. There are problems financially. There's problems with the economy. Whatever that may be, AI is taking over the industry. We're going to all lose our jobs. There's a lot of things, more things to really think about that can depress you but I tell people, because I do know of an artist, a graphic designer and whatnot. He took all his stuff off of Instagram. He got depressed, got into a funk because they just felt like the AI was just going to take over everybody's job. Creativity would be lost. But I said it hasn't yet, and just keep doing what you do. I mean, they tried to, I know it seems very Orwellian, but they did burn books. They did try to take things away from us, but the human spirit dominated and it pushed through, and I feel like it will again. But don't let the threat of something that's going to happen control your present state, because it hasn't happened yet. Until it does, it doesn't.
It's like a pendulum swings this way and then it'll swing back another way. Sure. It's like people all thought that because we could watch movies at home, no one would ever go to movie theaters anymore, but we still do.
I know it.
But also I think there's something, even with the voiceover world, you can have an AI version of your copy if you want, and it sounds decent depending on what you want.
Right.
But there's nothing that replaces real breath, real catches in your voice, inflections that are very nuanced and difficult to replicate. And so far, there still is a need for humans, right. and I know AI it affects every industry really.
It does.
They still need humans to teach AI,
right.
So there's still human aspects to it, but no one quite knows exactly what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, until they get an AI audience. I mean, you've got to move somebody, and if you do an illusion of a figure, that figure has to be related to somebody based on someone. Or are we going to have any connection to just a digital creation?
Well, and then maybe, like I was saying, the pendulum will swing to people who only want real and
Right.
can see it and know that it's not been manipulated in a digital way.
Then it becomes even more original.
It does, and it becomes more valuable.
More valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way I would look at it too, because what we do now may become more rare and therefore more valuable to come from real humans and have real human interaction.
And your own writing, you didn't have AI write this.
Right.
You know, where you can have music written within a minute, a new song, you know, with AI. So there is something that maybe there are elements, because I haven't studied any of this, but maybe there are elements that you can only really glean if it's written by a human, you know, as opposed to the impact of you can only be felt if it's written by a human or something, as opposed to an AI. I don't know yet, but maybe it will become a commodity in its own way.
Yeah.
You know, humans.
Right. And you know, I was watching, and I know you're asking these deep questions that make one ponder, but I was watching a football game between Georgia and Texas, and Matthew McConaughey was on the side.
That.
Did you see
I saw
that?
that? Yes, I did.
And they started interviewing him while the game was going on.
People were so mad.
I know,
Yeah.
right? But he said, don't ask permission. He said, you know, people are going to tell you you belong there, to stay in your lane. They're not going to approve. But you know what's inside you. You know what the world needs from you. Don't ask for permission, because you're not going to get it that way. But just go out and act. Take that first step. You know, I love that saying, you know, a 5,000-mile journey begins with what?
One step.
Single step. Take that single step. Don't think about the 5,000 miles. That's too daunting. But take that next step. And if you have a flashlight, it's only going to lead so far. But if you take another step, you'll see where it leads next. But if you stay put, you won't see the illumination, because it's only going to light so far. So you're forced to take that other step to see where to go.
If I had looked at my life 20 years ago and was able to even look at myself today, this moment in the studio interviewing you, I would be so overwhelmed and not have any idea how I'm able to do this. Or just that I live on my own, or, you know, I have my kids and went to school and all of that. At the time, I was a stay-at-home mom. I can't imagine how intimidated I would have felt and probably shut down. It's too much. But each little step did present itself in a way for me to be able to tackle it and grow. It's when I look back and go, oh my gosh, I did all this, and it's like I can't believe that I was brave enough to do it.
Right.
So,
I like that.
I think you're right. When looking at the little steps that are right in front of you, that's all we're responsible for. All I can control anyway.
Right.
I'd love to control everything.
I know. Wouldn't that be nice?
I can only control almost a little bit.
It'll be sunny and 72 today, and
You could make unlimited movies forever.
right, unlimited bank account.
Yes, unlimited budget. So what's next for you? Wait. First, I meant to ask you, how did it go when you released Jesse's Gift?
Well, I'll tell you what. During our premiere at the Strand Theater in Marietta,
what a moment!
it was definitely a moment, and it's one of those that you just want to keep forever in your memory bank. But it was we almost had a sellout. They've never had a sellout for a movie at the Strand. They have a balcony in there and everything there too, and it's but we came about 50 short of a sellout.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And so when we showed it, we heard a lot of oohs and ahs. They kind of laughed where they were supposed to laugh, and kind of oohed where they were supposed to ooh. And we sat, my brother and I sat towards the back, because not only did we want to watch the movie, we wanted to watch the people watching the movie. Okay, because that's our report card. And by the end of it, because we said, how do we want to open? How do we want to close? How do we want to end? You know, there's just so many choices, and we just feel we hope we made the right choice, because the saying is, hook them in the front and hook them and hang them, and leave them hanging at the end. And so we felt like we accomplished that. At the end, everyone applauded. They stood up. We got a rounding standing ovation with applause, and
holy cow!
Needless to say, that was a dreamlike moment, and really, all the work and the time, the sacrifice, pain, was worth it in that moment. Now we've not had many live screenings. That was one, and we did another one in Canton. We felt like we needed to.
The Canton Theater?
No, it was at the Mill in Etowah.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I know. That's where we had our meeting where we met.
There you go. There, okay, in that big screen out in the middle. But we were up against a lot right there. Gary Lamb heard about me doing the movie. He had a lot of influence on venues. Do you know Gary? Have you interviewed him?
I have not yet.
Okay. So he helped me line it up, but he also said, you know what, you're competing against too much. He said they were having First Friday downtown Canton that night, and they're doing with Prince and Beyonce, and then he said, there's just too much going on right then. It was a holiday weekend, and I said, well, can we do it another? Because they were not going to charge us for this. It was getting towards winter. Can we do it later? He said, no, I don't have another slot available for you anywhere. I said, well, let's just take our chances. And we had a decent turnout despite that. That was our only 2 live screenings of Jesse's Gift. We want to do it in Knoxville as well, because we do have following in Knoxville with my brother living there, the editor living there, and all that. We did film a scene in Knoxville as well. So it's gone over well, and then we did get it released Thanksgiving Day. It's on the YouTube channel, but it's also will be on Prime and Tubi. We can't dictate when that drops.
Got you.
But we knew that we could put some marketing effort on Thanksgiving Day and have it on YouTube channel. So it's gotten a lot of reviews. I mean, comments are, oh, this movie made me cry. We haven't had anything negative, although I'm sure that's coming. It's part of life. But people like it. We averaged, we've got like 6,000 views on it since Thanksgiving. So it's going well. I think people like our movie.
How does that feel?
It feels really good. It's really gratifying.
Does it make you want to do more and more?
It does. It does. And Troy told me, and he knew that it was my first time director on a feature-length movie and all that. And he said, just do me a favor. Don't stop. Don't stop what you're doing. He said, a lot of times I do help people that help make a movie, and we never see it again. And they never make anything else. This industry is hard. They go back to work. They get discouraged, what have you. He said, but do me a favor. Don't quit. Just stay with it. And so now, as a result, we have another feature length coming out next year, which is around the corner, right?
Yeah.
December now. So it's coming out at the first of next year it's a Western period film called Boot Hill. And that was all made in the Canton, Cherokee County area as well. It's just about all of it is outdoors. So, and then the interior cabin scenes, the saloon scene, that was made in Cobb County, in Marietta, at it's a Christian campground that actually had period cabins that were there during the time of the movie setting, and so we've got all these short films too that I like to call for practice, but they are all on part of our channel, our YouTube channel, and Off the Rails, and by building our audience and increasing the number of subscribers on there, then that certainly helps us give them something to view and watch, and having an audience for ourselves. My next feature is probably even more of a passion film than Jesse's Gift is, because it involves more myself, more my son, and that film is going to be not a faith-based film, but it's going to be an allegory type film. on the life of Christ, but it will not be. There'll be some dark edges. There'll be a little violence. There'll be some just some cursing, just because it's a rural gangster film, and the title of it will be Thorn. Thorn will be the name of the main character in the movie, which will be my son, and he's gotten released out of prison. And he's got this backstory that he was homeless, and his dad led him astray with his bad choices into this life of crime. He goes to his prison. He comes out, but he's been getting visitation by a volunteer in the prison ministry, and so Thorn questions everything that so many people question about God. If He's real, why is people suffer? Why does this happen? And Thorn thinks that that religion is a crutch, for people that need something to believe in, but not him. It's for weak people. And so he doesn't come around too easily to God, but he respects this person that's come in and spent time with him and witnessed to him when his own family members didn't visit him in prison. This person did. And so he comes back out with all the temptations that avail. All the old friends are still there, and they're waiting for Thorn. But Thorn is the allegory of Christ, and he does get whipped in the film.
Jeez. He
does get, but ultimately he gives his life, and like Christ did, for us. And but I believe it will be a film that anybody from any belief, whether they're atheist or whether they're Hindu,
there's so many universal themes that
they're
run
universal.
through all of those.
There are universal themes of redemption, forgiveness, love,
hero's journey, trying to save yourself.
Sure, yeah. Absolutely. So I'm really excited about that. We've got that on the books to be filmed in September of next year.
Excellent.
So a lot going on, but we, a lot of it's wait and see how Jesse's Gift does, and Boot Hill, how well it's received too, and what doors it could possibly open for us.
You're doing all that you know to do.
Yeah, and it still never feels enough.
That's the truth. There's never enough time.
I only have so many hours in the day, and these bodies need sleep.
Oh my gosh, that's
food,
so true.
And bills to pay. Not easy.
No, I was just in New Orleans for the first time last weekend, and I'm like, wish I had the energy that younger people do, because they were just out dancing and singing, and I'm like,
right?
It's past 9:00.
Right?
We're leaving
I know.
now
right.
to go out. What are you doing?
I know.
Anyhow, yeah. It's interesting though. Having to really balance your life out. I'm sure it could be very easy to get out of balance doing what you're doing. So
it really can.
Being conscious of that is important, I imagine.
Yes.
Okay, so if someone wanted to get in touch with you, what would be the best way?
Well, go to YouTube, Off the Rail Productions, or look up one of our movies, Jesse's Gift. Jesse's spelled Jesse, and not IE, apostrophe S, Gift. And look for our official feature film there. It's free. Just my Christmas present from you is just to view it, like it, subscribe it, help build our audience, and help us, if you like what you see, let us know, and help us make more so that we can, bring you another film that helps move you and encourage you and entertain you.
Well, Ken, I'm so excited to see what your future holds. Who knows?
Thank you.
Who knows what'll come? But I would love to have you back as time goes on, and you can let me know more of the things that you've learned. And
thank you.
Your journey is so identifiable in so many different ways, for lots and lots of people. And I love that you talked about anyone that's listening can understand what it's like to have fear, but not letting that make the decisions for you, because nobody knows exactly how it's all going to go. But you do know your next step you can figure out. So
that I do.
Yeah. I mean, anybody can do that.
Well, I thank you for doing what you're doing. I love the name of your podcast, and helping people overcome their fears, encouraging them. It is applauded in this day and age, and I just encourage you to keep up the good work.
Thank you. It's my happiest thing I do is this show. So thank you so much for spending time with me. And also thank you all for listening to Fearless Formula on Business Radio X. And again, this is Sharon Klein reminding you that with knowledge and understanding, we can all have our own fearless formula. Have a great day.